Nation to order. We are meeting on Tuesday, February 18th. It's 2025 at 6 p.m. and we're at the county office for a change. This meeting is being live streamed and a video copy of the meeting will be on the board's website within 5 working days. This time, I'm going to ask board member Butchie Burns to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I will be glad to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No public comment, I'm assuming. Okay, before we get started, I just want to give Mr. Superintendent Frank Barnett a pat on the back. It's a difficult thing to make the decision to call school off or 2-hour delays or whatever it is. And I've heard all sorts of positive comments that, hey, that superintendent of yours is getting these decisions right, and he's getting them right early. And he's first one around has done that. So as far as I know, Mr. Barnett has made the right decision every time in a timely fashion. Now your luck's going to run out someday.
Don't jinx it.
It's going to run out, but I know it's not an easy decision to make, but you hit it right, I think, every time. So I just want to thank you for that and acknowledge what you've done.
Thank you.
It's not easy.
At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Barnett for item 3, instruction and leadership category.
All right, instruction leadership category, something we're going to be putting on every agenda in order to address something along the lines of either curriculum or curriculum changes or testing and things of that nature. That we'll have that on every board agenda, and one of our different departments will lead that every time. So this time I'm going to start. When this board hired me year before last, we were looking at what we can do in order to improve and enhance our career technical education programs. So I put together this plan. Right now, as you know, we're kind of landlocked until Duval is built. We really don't have the facility to put in a lot of programs at this point. However, that being said, we're looking at this next school year, we're going to be able to start 3 programs. We're eliminating the law and public safety program. There are just no students. We had a lack of interest there. So we do have a culinary and ProStart classroom, and we own a restaurant. So it just makes sense to start up a culinary program. So that's a trade-off there. We're going to utilize the current ProStart in the county table. Startup costs there, we just about have everything we would need. We would have to do some replacement and upgrades. So we're looking at startup cost of about $5,000 and then approximately $45,000 for a teacher salary. But again, that's a trade-off from one program to another.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other programs we're looking at starting is tourism and hospitality. And that's a program we'll utilize using the current social studies teachers and our ag teachers. And that program, it has a litany of things that can be involved in it in terms of like, for example, their seasonal jobs, Department of Engineer or Corps of Engineer jobs. There are a multitude of things kids can do with that tourism and program. And that's a big push from the state right now is West Virginia tourism. So that's a program we can start there. And we have a grant that will buy any kind of hard materials that we would need for that. So that'll work out really well with there.
And this will be this fall.
This will be this fall coming up. Yes, ma'am. And then Brian Vance and I had talked with Armstrong, had talked a while back about fiber optics and installation and maintenance. And so I pitched this to the Department of Ed and got their blessing. So we already have a teacher that's certified. The name of the program they'll be using is CWST, Career Workplace Skills Training. And we have a teacher who's fully endorsed there already. So he'll be the teacher of record. And we talked to Brian about actually starting a pilot with about 10 students and bringing them over to the Armstrong facility and have him do some training with them on installation, repair, upkeep of fiber optic materials. And the way Brian and I talked, that's a direct pipeline to him for employees.
Mhm.
So it's a win-win for everybody.
It is.
But we do have the blessing of the state on that. I was excited about that point.
You think next fall or
This fall coming up.
great?
We also, I met with Nucor this past week, via Teams. And, talked to them about what skills, I just asked them what skills they thought were needed in the workplace for an entry-level position at Nucor. And, I had worked with Nucor when I was in Cabell County. And I remember them saying, and nothing has changed. There's no specific training we have to give them. Nucor will train in the Nucor way in everything they do. One of the things they talked about was soft skills. Being able to interview, being able to do a decent resume, being able to look someone in the eye and shake their hand and talk to them. The soft skills that go along, showing up for work, having a work ethic. And so we started talking to them. So one of their young ladies reached out to me about a program called SMART. And there's one of their internships is going to take place in March, and it's a 3-day training for students who would be interested. And that's what it trains them on: resume building, interview skills. They'll actually go through some mock interviews. So I've been working with Ms. Hatfield at the high school very closely with this, and she's all over it. And we're going to try to get the ball rolling on that. So that was with Nucor, and also with Alcon. I met with them as well. And we talked about the same things. Actually, I taught a workforce readiness program for Alcon when I was in Cabell County. And it's the same thing: being able to show up to work, being dependable, pass a drug test, have a good resume, be able to speak. So those are the types of things we need to look at with us, a lot of our students, especially when they reach that second year of CTE, is to build that into that curriculum on how they're going to interview, how they're going to present themselves, and actually take them through mock interviews.
Yeah.
So those are some things we're looking at there and all this is going to take place this next school year coming up.
So you're going to train and work on it this summer and then put it in place next
Yes.
fall? Good, good, good.
Moving forward, upon the opening of the new Duval Pre-K-8, when this space is vacant, year one, we're looking at starting masonry. Startup costs for there, it's about $10,000 to $12,000 in materials and about $45,000 for a teacher salary. We're looking at using the current elementary gym, which is back here on this side of this building. That'd be a large enough facility for masonry. Then they have all the space outside to, practice the laying up corners and finishing concrete and things of that nature. So that would be in year one. Year two, looking at heating and air and utilizing this current cafeteria, which is right here in the central office. Now, startup cost for heating and air is going to be a little bit higher. Just basic tools, you're looking at about $25,000. And then again, $45,000 for a teacher salary. But we also look at getting in some partnerships like I did in Cabell County with our wholesale businesses who a lot of times they will donate a new scratch and dent unit. Units being taken off a pallet and it's banged up. They can't sell it to the public, but they can donate it to us to learn how to put bugs in it and troubleshoot it. So that I had a lot of experience with that for them doing that. So that would be year two. Also in year two is electrical. Startup costs will be about the same there, and the same for the teacher salary, and utilize the current middle school gym, which is down the hall here. Now I met with the heating and air and the electricity teacher in Cabell County. I met with them Sunday morning, and we went over the startup costs, what all it would take. And those guys would be willing to help us in any way. We talked to them and in terms of putting the feelers out there to help us hire a teacher. It's hard to hire someone out of industry sometimes. But
Absolutely.
talking about looking at how to set up the program, set up the curriculum, and get the kids up and operating on that. So that's one of the things that we want to do looking at year two. Year three, we would be the only show in town, and it's barbering. That would utilize the split classrooms we have down here. Now, the startup costs on that are mostly construction related. Because with barbering, you have to, for every chair you have, every 2 chairs, you have to have a hand sink installed. So we're looking at some plumbing issues, some electricity issues to get things like that up and running. Now, the thing with barbering or hairstyling or anything in the cosmetology field, you have to have 2 instructors. If you have 1 student or 50 students, you have to have 2 instructors. That's because you're governed under 2 different entities. You have the Department of Ed, you also have the Board of Barbers and Cosmetologists. And I started the program in Cabell County, I want to say 4 years ago, down there, started the cosmetology program there. Now, it's been a huge success. And the thing about a program like that is after a little bit of time, once these students get to where they're actually up and on a clinic floor, then the program starts to become self-sufficient because we open it up to the public to come in and get haircuts and things of that nature while it's going on. And then, a matter of fact, we opened it up to the program I had down in Cabell County. They actually came out here at the summer of my first year and gave free back to school haircuts. So those are kinds of things too. They can do some service projects. They did prom hair. They can do some, homecoming hair and things like that for these girls and gentlemen. So those are some ideas that I have starting out that will get us through the 3rd year. And if it looks like funding is going to happen for us, then we can even look to expand that a little bit. In addition to heating and air and electrical, once we get this program with Mr. Vance off the ground and make sure that that's going to work, I would go back to the board to see about approaching him about collision repair and partnering with our collision repair shop that just opened up in Hamlin, because he's constantly busy. And I know that in Cabell, again, I go back to Cabell because I was the CTE director there. In Cabell, every child that I graduated out of the CTE program in heating and collision repair that wanted to work in collision repair were working. Gear Brothers and the Keatons, they were snacking them up just as fast as I could turn them out.
And the car dealerships are, they're looking for them all the time.
Same way with our electricians. Solar Holler was snapping them up just as quickly as I could turn them out.
Mhm.
Same with the HVAC folks. There was never a problem. And I'm looking at there, also training them to work here. Because right now we have 1 heating and air tech in the county. That's it. We've got to have a Mack truck rule. Something happens to them, we've got to have somebody, ready to step in. So I always refer to that as the Mack truck rule. So those are some ideas that I have moving forward to get CTE up and running. And it works. The more programs we have up and running and viable, then the more funding we receive. So it kind of takes care of itself after a bit. It'll be an initial startup cost, but they kind of take care of themselves after a time, because once the program's up and running, then for the students who are involved in it, there are more Perkins fundings, there's more secondary block fundings. And as you saw when Dr. White was down and did a report, it said that CTE was, we were in support for CTE. Well, when I started digging on that back in the fall, and that won't come off until next year. But what had happened was all of our middle schools now have CTE programs. Now, some of them are a lot more vibrant than others, but all 4 middle schools have CTE programs. But the course code that they were using was not the course code that matched to give us credit to show those kids were in there.
Mm.
So that's been repaired. That's been fixed. So moving forward, that's the CTE proposed plan that I have. And again, if we can expand on that, we most certainly will. It just, a lot of it comes down to, as it comes down to funding. But I think it's a good, solid program. I'm excited to be able to start 3 programs next year for the cost of 1. So that'll be 3 additional courses that the students can take with viable employment opportunities.
So you think you'll be able to tell the kids at the high school this spring that they will be here
Ms.
next fall?
Hatfield's working on that now for scheduling.
Scaling, okay, scheduling, good.
Anybody have any questions?
I think it looks great. I can tell you, just go back to the soft skills of someone who interviews people,
Mhm.
the art of going in and interviewing as a lost, nobody can do it anymore. And you can have a great resume, and if you blow the interview, you're not.
You don't get it.
With that and everything else, I think it looks great.
That might not be a bad thing to have, each of the vocational teachers to have like a 3-week course or something, on interviewing and talking about what you need to do in that particular classroom, then everybody would get it. That we could do that, because kids are kids and they don't have they either have a lot of self-confidence or they have self-confidence. And if you can build that up and put it in a level that they can use as they are interviewing for even jobs as they get out of high school, that would be a real positive effect for our
And you
kids.
can't interview with a text message.
No, you
Yeah.
So,
can't.
I mean, and that's what a lot of these students depend on now.
That's all they know.
So.
Nobody's
just
taught
need
them
to make sure
anything
we're
else.
Teaching the soft skills.
Yeah, we need to, and we need to do that not just with vocational, but with every high school senior.
Have we looked at putting any kind of plumbing program in the future?
Yes, plumbing is one of those that would probably, and we might even be able to throw it into year 3.
Yeah.
It's, is that, again, the startup cost on that is a little bit higher, but just because of the cost of materials.
Right.
Now, what I did with the electricity program, we talked about this, I bought a wire stripper. First thing I did with that when I first got there was I said, this is crazy because they go through an exorbitant amount of wire practicing.
Yeah.
And so I bought a wire stripper. And, so when they finished practicing, they'd run that wire through the wire stripper and then everything went into a big barrel and I sent it down once a month to sell it for scrap. And it gave me enough money to buy more wire.
Right.
So it became self-sufficient as well. So that's kind of one of the things that, that works out really well with that, to be able to do something of that nature. And then once that's up and running, like those kids can go and, practice with Habitat for Humanity. They'll be working under a master electrician's license, but they can still do some basic things.
Sure.
And same way with, just there are lots of different opportunities for them.
There are 2 people you can't get to your house inside of a week. Got the plumber and an electrician.
Yes. Yes.
They're just not, they're booked. The ones that are out there, you just can't.
Well, the average age of a plumber and electrician right now is 56 years old. So, it's hard work, but it pays well.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Couple of things, Frank, is, that smart, what do you call that? Smart?
It's yeah,
Applied technology, smart. I agree with what Mr. Cartwright said, that's just, you have to give kids those skills.
yes.
And I know when we give them skills, 2 or 3 days training on this, we're taking them off something else. I understand that, but you got a way which is more important. I would think every junior and senior anyway should have this program.
Well, I've got Ms. Hatfield working with me on this and she's really doing a good job with it. And in a true simulated workplace, the students actually interview to get into the program. And so that's what she's working on now with the students that are applying this year
To go
new
next year.
is an application. They have to learn how to fill out an application and they have to interview for the instructor.
The catch 22 on that, if they can pass the interview, then they really don't need it. But if they can't pass the
Well,
interview, that's when they need it.
You can still hone your school
But-
skills.
I got another question. I don't know what the right nomenclature or description is, but on the job training, that used to be part of workforce training years ago. I think we not hit it, but presented it under a co-op program. Does those programs exist anymore?
There's co-op opportunities provided the students have enough credits toward graduation to get there. Because graduation is number one, obviously. But they do get on-the-job training, like for example, the carpentry class right now over there has worked for the last 2 years. They have done wiring, roofing, guttering at Beach Fork at the state park. So they still do that. The auto repair, they take in public vehicles and do those. They work on those and get repaired there. Mr. Harshbarger's computer and robotics group, they will pull wire. They'll do projects inside the school, pulling wire, doing internet drops, things of that nature.
Would that allow us to take a kid that's been some training, got the credit to to put him with our electricians and go out on a job?
That's one of the things we're working on with Ms. Hatfield, is to be able to do that. Now, once this electricity program's up and running, absolutely, because again, I go back to Cabell because that's where it was, but the electricity students there and the HVAC students, they actually run all the conduit, all the electricity to put air lines and electric lines into the graphic design room to put in a commercial t-shirt press. So that thing will turn out 200 shirts an hour. So it can become to where they can work with our maintenance crew as a trainee, if you will, to be able to actually supply the food chain to us.
I had a furnace put in my house. I'll name them, Curry and Johnson put it in a few years ago. And they had a student from Chesapeake who was going through their vocational program, but he actually came out and worked an entire day, couple of days to install that. And I wondered how they did that. And
Sometimes those are adult students. Those are postgraduates.
you know, this guy wasn't, he was still in school, but it seems like you mentioned, the auto body place over there, that we could squeeze an on-the-job training or person in.
Yeah, now it's gonna take us a little bit of logistics in terms of getting them there, like with buses and whatnot, but that's something that can be done. It's just like Brian's crew. He will actually have them out working on the time that they're with him. That's one of the things we talked about. And we can do that same thing, like I say, with well, they already do it in the carpentry. They'll take a bus and go out to a state park, or they'll go to like a habitat house or things of that nature. So they do get that training. What I would like to see is if we can get them into some internships and externships. I know the Carpenters Union, that's the important thing about Skills USA. When they go to these contests and the Skills USA program, for the carpentry contest, the first two place winners up there get an automatic admittance into the carpenter's apprenticeship. Same thing with the electricians, they get it into the IBEW. So that's one of the big things that I push with this Skills USA. That's a pipeline for these kids. I remember I had 5 state winners, and we went out to down to Louisville for the nationals. And the guy that was running, it was called Teamworks. You set up a team of carpenters, electricians, masons, and plumbers. And they had to build a little structure and completely get it ready to go. And that winning team, all 4 of them were given just like the electricians got a complete set of Klein tools. And then the plumbers, they got a good set of Milwaukee stuff. And then they were also granted internships, every one of them. So there are lots of opportunities for these kids, and Megan's digging pretty deep into it to help out too, as well as that goes. As a matter of fact, she's looking at right now, she's got a partnership going with the Office of Food, Child Nutrition at State Department to look at doing a farm to table initiative with our agriculture program, and they will come out and actually replace the greenhouse that's been there since the school opened. So she's done a good job with it.
One thing I'd like to mention, you talked about the ag department, that farm to table. I really like the idea of that and supplying our own food and that kind of thing. But even, and I don't even know if this is the ag department or probably is ag department, but something. They talked about in Cabell County how the electrical department put in the conduit and stuff for that project, self-sustaining. You can do little projects. I'd like to see that kind of the site, the Lincoln County High School, the site, just a beautified project in the ag department. Whenever you go into the entrance, it looks pretty bare. There's a disc golf course over there that you can't hardly see.
Right.
A pond out back that isn't really a pond. I mean, just that kind of thing. That's some things I'd like to see addressed.
And it impresses the parents and the whole community when they see us and the kids doing the work and the learning. And it's there for everybody to see and enjoy. Plus, it makes that campus beautiful.
Do we have anybody designated as, a vocational curriculum person?
That's Ms. Hatfield. Meg and I keep talking about. Me working with them.
Cause
Yep.
you as superintendent can't do that,
Right.
but, she's gonna be the
Yeah, she and
county.
I have sat down with this, you know, and gone through all of this.
Okay, good show. It also would be, just throw this out there for your consideration. On the educational channel that we've got, I do that from time to time and, information like this, Ms. Hatfield or you or somebody standing before the camera and giving a vision of what CTE is going to be in the future and what these programs are.
Okay.
That would take up some time on there, but I think that's the kind of thing that we need to be putting on that.
Yeah, give that
educational
information to families
Well,
and
Ms.
parents.
Hatfield's not here to defend herself, so I'll put her on that.
channel. Okay.
She
All
wasn't
right. Anybody have any other comments? All right. If not, again, I turn the meeting over to Mr. Barnett. So, he has presentations and reports.
Well, I've asked Mr. Hoover, our attendance director tonight, to come in and give you some data on our attendance. And this is as of the first semester. And,
Okay.
all things considered, we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like Mr. Barnett said, this data was pulled after the first semester, which would have been January the 22nd. As that's a good place to break and look at our progress. But the first thing you're going to see is our countywide enrollment. We always want to stay on top of that. It's something that Mr. Davis and I look at probably daily or every other day.
Rod, are we down or up?
From the 10-month report, we're down about 50 students from October. It's been a little bit of a give and take. We've had a lot of kids transferring in. We've had some transferring out. We've had some coming back from homeschool. We have some going to homeschool. But since the 10-month report in October, we're down about 50 students. So that's the first piece of data I provided. The next thing I always like to give is the homeschool and the Hope Scholarship numbers that we're looking at. Right now, we're in January, we were at 362 homeschooled and 57 Hope Scholarship.
Up or down on that homeschooling?
From the first of the year, we were around 400.
Okay,
So, cleaning up that homeschool database with graduates and kids that came back to school in August, we're down about 35 to 40 students.
okay, now, are we gaining in homeschooling or are we losing in homeschooling as a county who's getting our students to school, to our schools?
We have brought back a pretty good handful of students from homeschooling, and I credit Mr. Gaines's his social workers and the CSI staff as they took the homeschool list. They broke it down, took about 10 to 20 kids per person, and they are personally contacting every homeschool student and inviting them back to school.
Good.
And, make sure everything's okay. Hey, what can we do to get you to come back? Here's some things that's going on in Lincoln County, giving them some highlights to try to entice those parents to bring those kids back into our school system.
Might even set up a meeting with the parents and tell them
Yes.
the same thing.
Yeah, well,
actually doing home visits.
they're doing
Yes,
home visits.
okay, good.
They're
That's
face to
good.
face, putting eyes on parents and
Good.
students. So,
Yeah, I think that makes the difference.
I hope we're not sending them out there as an individual.
no,
They're going.
no, they always go out
Yeah.
as pairs.
Yeah, that's just good at
Yeah.
insurance. Good thinking.
But the number that is growing from last year, of course, is the Hope Scholarship. As our legislature is making it easier and easier for these parents to move their students to Hope Scholarship. Previously, an incoming kindergartner could just fill out the application and they would be automatically accepted. But beyond kindergarten, they had to attend school at least 45 days before they would be eligible. But I think that's even going by the wayside, and they're letting students that are not in kindergarten fill out that application and come in at any time during the year at a prorated rate. So it seems like they're making Hope Scholarship easier and easier. And the only accountability piece on those Hope Scholarships is we have to get a report of if they're attending a private school, we have to know their enrollment, or they have to do like a portfolio assessment or do one of the approved state assessments. And with our homeschool students, they only have to produce in 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. But there's possible legislature out there now that are going to require parents to provide that portfolio or that assessment at every grade level.
Every year.
So I'm hoping it's going to put a little bit of accountability on the parent and the student. As that's their education. And we don't want to put those kids behind an 8 ball before they get started. There are some parents that do homeschool and they do it right, but there are other parents that homeschool for a reason, whether they're avoiding truancy or they're avoiding certain situations. And that's the time of the year we're in now, is we see some parents pull to homeschool because they're trying to avoid truancy. As those petitions are getting filed and DHHR is knocking on the door and checking on, why has your kid missed 20 days or why does he have 20 unexcused absences? As truancy looks at unexcused absences, where our main focus is the chronic absenteeism, where it basically looks, are you there or are you not? And that's the true measure of attendance, in my opinion, is are they there or are they not, whether or not they provided an excuse of why they're not there. And our chronic numbers, as you can see in the next set of data, our chronic absentee numbers have greatly improved over the past 2 years. This year, right now, we're looking at 31% chronically absent. Whereas if you look at the next page after that, that shows you the past 5 years, starting at 2021.
Now, keep in mind, 2021 was COVID.
That's COVID. So every kid was present all spring long once COVID hit. So our real numbers hit in 21-22. We were at 49% chronically absent. And if you look up there, it's not just the red, but look how the blue is growing. We went from 49 and then we went to 50, but then we went from 50 to 41 and then 41 down to 31. So we're 19 points better in the chronically absent than what we were 2 years ago.
Yes.
And our blue category of the no attendance issues has grown from 16 to 30%. Sure.
This is not the old excused, unexcused. It's just you're not in school and you're counted absent.
Correct.
Okay.
When you're looking at the chronic absent numbers, it's present or absent regardless of reason.
Okay.
And I think the only exemptions, I believe, is a bus failure to run, because that's not on a student, or if they're suspended, because they don't have a choice of whether they're in school or whether they're not. That's the only 2 days that are exempted from the chronic absent number.
Is there any statistic kept for kids who are ill or whatever, if you've got the rampant flu, or let's say COVID hits again, and
Right.
and our COVID policy is not letting them come back to school if they have the COVID.
Currently, there's not, because our COVID restrictions have basically went away since 22, 23, when we required that student to be out for 10 days.
Before that.
So with those restrictions being gone, we don't have that particular piece in place at the time.
Policy says 5 days.
Well, I think it started at 10 when
Yeah.
COVID first hit, and then it back to 5.
But those 5 days, if they've got COVID and we're not letting them come to school,
They're coded as an excused absence, but yet it's when we
still
look,
a absent.
yes,
Yes,
it's still
still counted.
absent.
Well, I say that to highlight a bill that's in the legislature. I believe it's been introduced. I don't know it has. It says, schools have the principal, I think it says, has the right to, hold back a child, a student, if they miss more than 20 days in a year. Now, I've always wrestled with the idea I think schools are in the business of academics. That's what we work on, teaching kids skills and having them prepared to go out. I know that we can't do that unless they're in school. But to let them lose a year of academics because they missed 20 days
For whatever reason.
for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to be academically rooted in any kind of academic thought.
Is that a state law, David?
Well, it's being proposed.
Oh, I
It's
hope it
on-
doesn't pass.
Somebody introduced the bill in the House of Delegates for that, but, I don't have a solution. I know you can't teach them if they're not in school, and we want them in school, and we want them to achieve as much as possible. But it kind of seems like attendance is something else besides academics.
Yeah.
And,
Correct.
most of the time, it's not the kid that's not getting to school.
Correct.
It's
The
the parents. not
Especially when
seeing
you're
that they're
talking about
getting-
elementary and
Yes.
middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
I don't have a solution for that, but it's a big conundrum
Right.
to me, and somebody smarter than me really needs to figure this out.
And I'm like you, I mean, we're in the business of academics and achievement. And, you know, if a kid can pass, whether they've missed 4 days or whether they've missed 24 days, that's another discussion, is if a kid can miss your class 40 times and they can still pass, what does that say about your rigor?
Your
So
class.
that's another discussion.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
But I
When the
agree. I mean,
kid-
there's always going to be circumstances out there. But as far as your illness kids, you know, we do have some students in our system that are chronically ill.
Mhm.
And they do fill out a chronically ill form that is on file in my office as well as the school health office. To where, you know, a doctor may say, you know, with this particular condition, you know, they're allowable up to 4 to 5 absences per month. And of course, you know, truancy and things like that would not affect this child.
Then again, the thought is, if you excuse a kid who's missed 50 days in a year because they've had chemo and radiation,
Correct.
and this kid over here has missed 20 or 30 out fishing, you
Mhm.
still missed the same instruction.
Right.
So, like I say, it explodes my head,
Yeah.
but
But you did it for different reasons, you know, and you just have to as a principal or.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I didn't mean
No,
that.
but you know, the chronic absent measure is the true absence of basically absent or present. And that's what we need to really look at and focus on, not
Not
so much
why.
about being compliance of turning in an excuse to avoid truancy, but you know, are you there to get instruction or are you not? And that's, you know, that's where it boils down to. And that the last colored graph you have there, that's a breakdown of each school in the county of their chronic numbers for each school. And we last month at the end of January, I attended along with a principal and a counselor and a CSI worker from Guyan Valley, as well as Mr. Roy and Miss Adkins. We attended the WVDE Attendance Collaborative. This is a conference that I attended with Lincoln County last year when Miss Polly was on board and Kayla was a teacher, Miss Adkins. So we took John up there to get him caught up to speed with the program that we looked at last year. And then I brought Guyan Valley on board this year. They wanted one school to come. So we attended that conference and we saw and got a nice set of ideas and things of different districts of what they do to look at improving attendance. Something that Mr. Barnett and I talked about the other day is using our broadcasting classes at our school to do a student-made video promoting attendance. You know, we can stand up here as adults and preach it all day long, but you know, kids hear it from other kids. Sometimes it hits home a little better.
They'll buy into it.
Yeah, so that's something that we talked about is, you know, like over at Guyan Valley, they have the broadcasting about producing a video and, you know, we could have all schools to do that. And, you know, that's another thing that we could put out there on the Armstrong Education Channel, as well as all of our social media platforms of just promoting attendance and the importance of being there, whether it's for academic reasons, whether it's for social reasons. You know, so many of our kids are absent from school so much that social skills lack. And, and it all goes back to how are they going to be able to function in a workplace? Mr. Cartwright said, people don't know how to interview anymore. It's a lost art because people have lost so much face-to-face interaction, through texting or messaging or everything else. So that's something that we'd like to do this spring, is to get some attendance promotion videos out there produced by the schools, by the students.
And
get
show them at PTO meetings too.
We
I
actually
know.
have that, that's in place, that's happening right now. I've got, I call her Miss De La Rosa, the mother. Miss Faust at Guyan Valley and Miss Davis actually at Hamlin are working with the other two schools to put together, and the battle cry, rally cry, if you will, is gonna be attendance matters, you matter. And, they're working on right now, working with the other students to produce those videos.
And then they'll show them to parents and other community members at different meetings.
Yeah.
Now, the needs attention bunch there, do we talk with them individually and see what their gist on why it is, right?
That's what Mr. Gaines' crew is doing, in
Okay,
addition to the homeschooler, the chronically absent students, what they need
The,
attention.
the needs attention section, those are kids that are between 90% and 95%. The red students are students that are under 90% attendance.
okay.
And that means they can miss 18 days per year and not be chronically absent. I mean, to me, that's still a very high number,
That is a
18
high
days
number.
per year. If you miss 18 days per year, every year, you miss out on about a year of
You
education
do,
by the time you add all
You
those
do.
days up.
yeah. And it becomes kind of a life habit, even
Yeah.
when they start into work. It's a habit that they picked up and they miss a lot of work and then they wonder
And
why.
I hate going back to COVID, but COVID really took the importance of attendance out of the people's eyes at some point.
Yeah,
Because, we did so much remote and we did so much at home that attendance almost become an afterthought.
yeah.
And it's that mind shift hasn't changed back yet.
No, and I have to tell you, it worried me some that we pushed some on that didn't need to go.
Yeah.
During COVID.
You probably don't have the information to answer this, but I'll just throw this out there. Lincoln County High School has the worst of anybody, I guess, if I looked at that correctly. Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of kids drive to school at the high school level. There seems to be, I guess it's still law that the principal had to give approval for kids to drive to
Not
school.
anymore.
It's not anymore.
Attendance is no longer tied
Tied to
to
it.
driving, like you don't have to get a proof of enrollment anymore to go get your license.
No, I'm talking about, it used to be actually written
Right.
in code that a student could not drive to or from school until the principal gave his okay. You had to apply to do that. That was rooted in because the principal was responsible for the student from the time
They
they
get there.
left home
Till they,
until the
They
time they got home.
uh-huh.
And that was an uncomfortable position for me to be as
Sure.
principal,
Especially drivers.
but there were kids that I didn't allow to drive. It seems to me if that provision is there or something like that, if they're not coming to a certain attendance level at the high school, hey, you're gonna have to ride the bus. We can't trust you to get here.
But David, was that state code or was that our own rule?
That was code, that was rooted in code.
Is it still there like that?
I don't know.
We need to look that up
I
and
don't know,
see.
but I never liked it being there, I could tell you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, sometimes that state code saves us when we say, look out here, you're real close to not being able to do that anymore.
And then the last bit of information is the average daily attendance numbers. And I did check those numbers today since I ran these. And as a county, we're up about 0.25%. And there were some schools that jumped almost a full percentage point as far as the average daily attendance. So some things look tough, but I think there's a lot of things in there optimistic, especially with those chronic absentee numbers coming down and the 95% or better numbers going up. And, and it's a lot of things going on. And like I said, those CSI workers and social workers are on the front lines. They're calling every absent kid every day. They're making contact. Hey, why aren't you here? They're keeping records. They're doing home visits. They're phone calls. So there are people, that are putting forth a lot of effort to try to address our attendance issue.
And sometimes that call, is a little unexpected to take as a parent that somebody knows yours is not there,
Yeah.
they care, and they want to know what's going on.
And it's a lot different when it's a robocall compared to a person on
person,
the other end say, hey,
absolutely.
why isn't Jimmy at school
Yeah, we're
today?
concerned and
Yeah,
we,
just, he's missed 2 days in a row. Is Jimmy
Yeah.
okay? Is there
Yeah.
anything we can do to help
Right.
you? So,
makes all the difference in the world.
so those guys are doing a lot of good work out there.
And
Thank
it
you,
only
Mr.
helps
Hoops.
you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And I'll
Yeah.
provide attendance, data, at the end of the month for every month.
Good.
Even if I don't attend, Mr. Davis and Mr. Barnett will have it. That way you all can stay, up to date on our attendance.
Thank you.
And then if you all need me to come back at any time, just let Mr. Barnett know and I'll be glad to come in.
Good presentation.
All
I
right.
appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, moving on to item 5, approved minutes of the January 28th and February 4th, 2025 meetings. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Cartwright makes the
I'll
motion.
second.
Burns seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's 5-0. Bring us item number 6, organizational action here. I've been in communication with Dave Roberts, who's the West Virginia Cooperative Extension Service agent.
Mhm.
And, the board puts a representative on his council. Mr. Snyder was the representative and since he went off the board in July, we haven't replaced him, so we need to do that. He says that you may meet once, perhaps twice during the course of the year.
Of the school year or the year itself?
I took that to be the calendar year.
Okay.
And, it's generally at his office over there behind the state police headquarters. There doesn't seem like it's all time consuming for anybody. So, we have 2 representatives, the Mountain State Consortium, and Mr. Cartwright is the representative on that. So we're looking for a representative here. If anybody wants to be on that council, you can volunteer, and I'm sure we can reach some nomination and second and do that. If not, we can just force somebody to do it, I guess, by
Wait.
nominating.
Push their back.
So is there anybody that would like to be on that council?
Oh,
I
heck,
can't. do it.
I'll do it.
You'll do it?
Yeah, I'm right here in town. I don't have to go very far.
Does anybody else would like to be on that council?
I'd nominate Miss Burns.
Oh, God.
All right,
I second that.
we have
Now, he'll contact me, David will, right?
I'll tell him.
Yeah.
Let me do this officially here. Butchie Burns has, been nominated by Mr. Cartwright and seconded by Mr. Wilson. All in favor of Miss Burns being on the extension board, say aye. Any opposed? And none. Congratulations,
Well,
Butchie.
thank you, Mr.
I'm
Hill.
assuming you voted for yourself because it's 5-0.
Well, you know
Okay.
what?
All right, brings us to the administrative section. Any discussion?
March the 6th.
I'd just like to bring to attention to item C, the MOU at Marshall University. That was the direct admission program I talked to you about early on.
Uh-huh.
So they'll be contacting me to kick that off real soon here.
And that would also be another good thing we could put on our educational site.
Yep.
And we have fairly good communication through the public on Facebook, through the county school system thing, but again, we might utilize that a little more than what we're doing with these things.
I make a motion that we approve the administrative items.
I'll second.
Wilson makes a motion, Cartwright seconds. All in favor of approving administrative items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? and it's 5-0.
Robin, be sure and call us about A and remind us about that March the 6th, 2025 at 4 PM work session.
We have another board meeting before that one.
Yeah, I know, but even 2 days before that call, because all of us get so wrapped up in our lives, you know.
All right, brings us to the finance section. Do we have any discussion?
Make a motion, we approve the finance items.
Mosteller makes a motion
I
for
second.
approval. Burns seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's 5-0. Brings us to personnel section, the infamous blue sheet. And I just want to say that, just the one with it, yeah, down under retirements in item J, two people I've worked with throughout the year, Gail Crum and Pam Watson, are retiring,
Mhm.
at the end of this year. Just wonderful people.
Yeah.
Not saying the other person isn't, but I just don't know the other person. But those two people were outstanding, and the school system will miss them.
Make a motion to approve personnel.
Cartwright makes a motion to
I'll
approve
second.
personnel. Burns seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's 5-0. Brings us to superintendent updates.
Just briefly update on the construction project at Duval. Weather, of course, hasn't been our friend. But I have seen a lot of footers going up there. There's a lot of rebar sticking out of the ground and some pillars poured now. So if we can get a little cooperation from Mother Nature, we'll start seeing some steel go up really soon. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So that's kind of where we are as far as the update on that project goes. The other thing I mentioned there a minute ago was the MOU with Marshall about the students being admitted into the program there. Again, I talked about it earlier with my meetings with Nucor and Alcon. So that we're real excited about getting those partnerships started again with those folks. That's all I have.
Okay. We have a student discipline
We do.
section. Are you gonna handle that
I'll handle that.
executive section?
I will.
Okay, brings us to item 9, which is student discipline. I'd like to have a motion and a second to enter into executive session to discuss discipline of a student.
I'll make that motion.
Burns makes the motion.
I'll second.
Who seconded? Mosteller seconds. The time is 6:52 PM. All in favor of executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 5-0. We will be going into executive session and returning from executive session. Do I have a motion and second to return to regular session?
I make the motion.
Burns makes a motion, Cartwright seconds. The time is 7:05 PM. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's 5-0. In accordance with West Virginia Code 18A-5-1A and 61-7-2 and West Virginia Department of Ed Policy 4373, students A and B shall be expelled from Lincoln County Schools. Do I have a motion and a second to ratify those expulsions?
So moved.
Cartwright makes a motion.
I'll second.
Wilson seconds
Okay.
already. Wilson seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And brings us to the last item. Adjourn until Tuesday, February the 25th at 6 PM at the same county office.
So moved.
Wilson makes the motion.
I'll second.
Burns seconds. The time is 7:06. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.